Whenever you hear cocoon, you think of caterpillars. A caterpillar doesn't envision a life with wings because it doesn't have wings. So it's not thinking about reaching those mountaintops because it doesn't feel like it has the means to get there. But as it goes through that cocoon, as it goes through that transformation, and when it emerges from that cocoon, and now it realizes that it has wings, the way that it thinks is totally different. I don't have to crawl up the base of a tree trunk to get to the branch to now get to the leaf. I could fly up there. And that's what it felt like going through that cocoon transformation. Rich family, welcome to another episode of the Thoughts of an Empath podcast. It's your host, Steve St. Ville, and as always, it's a blessing and an honor to be here with y'all for real. First and foremost, y'all know how we do things. We gotta show love to God, gotta give thanks to God first and foremost before anything, because we are here together. And I, for one, want to make sure that I'm expressing gratitude for just the ability to be here with y'all and the gratitude in my heart for y'all rocking out with me. So thank you so much, God, for allowing us to be here. And in the spirit of inviting God into this time together and centering us into this space, I'm going to invite everybody that's listening and tuning in to just take a few moments to take a nice deep breath along with me. So wherever you at, let's just go ahead and take a nice full deep breath in through our nose. Hold it for a few moments. And whenever you're ready, just calmly exhale. I appreciate you so much. I love you so much. And again, welcome to another episode. I'm looking forward to what we got today. But before we get into the good stuff, I definitely want to encourage y'all to please subscribe, please comment, and please share the podcast if you find any level of value in the conversations that we have in these human conversations. I again want to encourage you to engage just so that we can get the good word out there, so that we can get this what I believe is something that we need. Just conversations where we can feel like everybody is together and we are sharing with one another. If you find some value, again, please subscribe, share, and continue to rock with us on this journey. As y'all should know, and if you don't know, if this is your first time, Thoughts of an Empath is more than just a podcast. It is a non-profit organization centered on creating spaces for healthy, vibrant, transformative, and restorative conversations. And we do that through a host of events that we hold. So if you are ever inspired to join in, especially our flagship event, Open Lounge, which is a virtual discussion group series, we want to encourage you to check out our website, thoughtsofanempath.org. Tap in with us on our social at Instagram. You can find us at Human Level Conversations. And again, we are building a community around these types of conversations. So we have our online community hosted through the Discord app. All the necessary links can be found in the description or on our page. But again, if the one place that I want to encourage y'all to check out is our website, again, thoughtsofanempath.org. That's where you can get all the information for what we got going on and how you can get involved. If you're looking to volunteer with the organization, if you're looking to bring some human level conversations to your community, there on the website is where you will find all the necessary links to be able to do so. So I appreciate y'all in advance for just tapping in and supporting this journey. But again, make sure that you check out the website so you can get all the official information. You can get the links. You can find out what topic we're going to be talking about. And make sure that you feel encouraged to invite a friend. And so with that takes care of the housekeeping, and just wanted to leave us and transition into our disclaimer. This podcast is a space for open and honest conversation. The views and opinions expressed by the host and any guests are their own and do not reflect the views of Thoughts of an Empath Incorporated, nor any organizations or group that our guests may be affiliated with. Our intention is to create a safe environment for dialogue, reflection, and growth. Please remember that these conversations are meant to inspire thought and connection and should not be taken as professional advice. As always, we want to remind you that life is grand when we allow it to be. All right, y'all, let's get into this one. Again, I'm excited because this is a topic that I kind of came through as I was going through a major period of change and shift in my life. And this is the whole idea behind what is known as the cave or the cocoon. Now, I believe at every point, at some point, each and every one of us are going to be challenged through solitude. There's going to be a point in time, if you so decide to take this walk where you want to elevate yourself, you are going to be challenged with solitude. And I believe that all individuals want to work towards, improving themselves. However, not everybody actually takes the necessary steps to do so. So, in my experience, last episode, I touched on it a little bit where back in 2018, I was working at a bank. I genuinely felt like I had everything that I should want. I had the job, bank job, good paying bank job. I was a personal banker. I had the car, Infinity. What year was it? Oh, 2006 Infinity G35 Coupe, gray. Her name was Marceline. Oh, I loved Marceline. Um, I even had the social media following. My social media following was starting to, improve because I think it was because I started getting serious with my physical health. I was going to the gym regularly. I was being more mindful about the things that I was eating. So, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, that kind of emanates in the spaces that you occupy. And social media is one of those spaces that we occupy. So I found that my social media interactions were starting to, get higher and higher. I was getting more followers. I was getting more than just 11 likes on my Instagram posts. This was a time where more than 11 likes was something to be very proud of, because if you was with Instagram when it first came out, you understand what the 11 likes meant. And I had the girl that I had been, pursuing for some time. We were in a relationship. And again, I felt like I had all the things that I was supposed to want. But as I went through my days, I recognized that I just started getting this feeling like, yo, is there more? Is there more? Is there more? And my soul and my spirit was pushing me to want something deeper. And I made some major life decisions. I decided to leave my job. I ain't have no backup plan. I ain't really have anything thought out or well planned out. But I decided to leave my job. I got off of social media because I wasn't working anymore. I couldn't maintain the car. So I ended up parking the car, and I had broken up with my partner at that time. And so for the first time in my life, I didn't really have any level of expectation on me because I had kind of shed all of these things. And it was just Steve and Steve in those moments. And that was the first time that I really had to embrace solitude. Because when the way I grew up, I talk about this often. Like, I grew up in a very tight knit religious community. My family was very close. I got my brothers, my sisters. I got people around me. But for the first time, and then with social media, there's always that. We feel more connected to everybody. But again, for the first time, I had really stepped into solitude. And what transpired over the next couple months, I'm gonna be open and honest with y'all, is the first month was just bullshitting. To be totally honest, y'all. And I think that was necessary. And I think this is something necessary that everybody goes through. That first month, when you finally don't have no real obligations, you finally don't have to go to sleep early so that you can wake up early to get ready for work and all of that good stuff. I was just resting. Not just catching up on sleep, but I was authentically resting. And I was just doing anything that I felt like I didn't have the time to do. I always share that, that was the time when I binge watched Game of Thrones. I had never watched any episodes. So I started at episode 1, and then I binge watched all the way up until where it was currently at. I think it was maybe like season 7 at that point. So I binge watched Game of Thrones. And again, I just didn't do anything. And honestly, I felt good. It felt great. Honestly, just being in a space where I didn't have to worry about anything. And now, where the whole premise of the cave and the cocoon comes in is what happens after that. For me, in my experience, and I believed, I want to say, just through my observation and through conversations that I've had with people, there is a point in time where you start asking yourself, well, this is nice, but what do I want to do? What is my purpose in life? What do I want to give to the world? What value do I bring to the world? And these are very serious questions. These are very deep questions. And through interacting with that question and how you respond to that question determines whether that space of solitude you occupy transforms into a cave or a cocoon. Now, the major difference between the cave and the cocoon, to just give us a clear definition, is that transformative space, i.e., the cocoon, where you go through deep reflections, you start to learn who you are, you start to reflect on what your values are and what type of impact you want to have on the world. Or you can now transmute that type of energy into what's known as the cave, where it essentially you use that space to isolate from the rest of the world. And it's not a space of reflection, but it's more so a space of just distance. Now, in my experience, I have seen more people around me get into that space where they're by themselves and they're embracing the solitude and they're navigating the solitude, but then it transforms into the cave. I might not hear from these people for some time. They may just fall off the face of the earth. And I found that one of the this is interesting because it seems to be uh, a reoccurring, how would I say, evidence that I've seen in different people, where it's like you start binge watching everything. You constantly looking for content. And in 2020, well, 2018 at that time, but it's not much different. You know, we got Netflix, we got all these streaming services, we got YouTube. There's an infinite amount of content that you can now find to distract yourself from spending time with just yourself. And we talked about this last episode where, you know, having those conversations with yourself for me has been a practice that I use to help, you know, regulate myself and to help with my mental well-being. But avoiding these conversations is essentially avoiding those realizations. And when we have access to so much information and content, we can get flooded with things that just make us feel like we're separated from ourselves. That's just how I've kind of broken it down from my observation. So again, to really just define what is the cave and what is the cocoon. The cocoon is that space of solitude where you are undergoing a transformation. You are having some very difficult and uncomfortable conversations with yourself. You are reflecting on what it is that you have brought into this world up until this point, but what it is that you want to build and what it is that you want to give to the world up until this point. And in the opposite is the cave. It's a space of isolation. It's a space of not solitude. It's a space of isolation where you are intentionally removing yourself from the public. You're not reaching out to people. And it's a space where you are not undergoing any type of transformation. In fact, you are actively avoiding any types of transformation because you don't want to have those conversations. You don't want to have those tough realizations. And one of the biggest things for me that I had to come to recognize is that in that space of being in the cocoon, I had to take accountability for a lot of dang near everything that was happening in my life. It was no longer about how I was raised. It was no longer about what lessons that I was given as a child. It was about how am I showing up each and every day. So navigating that level of solitude was something totally new for me. And I didn't have many examples around me to really understand what that solitude looked like. But I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you, God. Because regardless of what I may feel about, you know, my upbringing and the you know, the foundations of the religious community that I was raised in, I am so grateful to have that spiritual foundation. I'm so grateful to have that spiritual foundation because one of the practices that I started to get more intentional about in that time was prayer. I started to meditate more. I started to get outside and just listen to nature to understand what is going on in the world. How does the world actually work? And if you really want to figure this out, all you got to do is shut up. All you got to do is just shut up and listen. Listen to yourself. Listen to what's going on outside of you. Listen to what's going on inside of you. And then when you allow God the space to kind of weave all of those things together, you get a much better understanding of what this world and what this life experience is supposed to look like. So for me, it started to manifest in certain questions like, well, how do I want to now leave my footprint on this world? And so I had to start reflecting on what are some of the things that make me happy. And something that I would always love doing is being in spaces where we can have conversations about the deeper things. However, like many other individuals, I didn't have a lot of spaces to have these conversations. And so I didn't really know where to go to have this conversation. And I've come to recognize that there's this inflection point where you ask yourself what it is that you want to do. You get the idea for what it is that you want to do. But then the next thing is to think practically, how am I actually going to carry these things out? And there's almost always a barrier, an obstacle, something that is going to stop you from actually doing this in the way that you might have received it in the vision. And at that point, we all have a choice to make. Are you going to succumb to the doubt, which now transforms that space into the cave? Or are you going to overcome that? I just, again, want to thank God for instilling a spirit in me that's saying, I want to overcome this. Because podcasts at that time were just starting to really become something that is mainstream. So I had the idea of, yo, I could start a podcast, just that's the whole idea. Having deep conversations. But again, I didn't really have a lot of spaces of people around me where I felt like I can consistently have these conversations. So it's like, well, I don't have a co-host in mind. I don't come from money, so I don't got the resources to actually have like a full production type of thing. And in that moment, I could have, if my spirit was not fortified, I could have fallen into a space where it's like, well, I had this idea, but I don't really see the means to do it. I'm going to give up on the idea, and then I'll now transform my solitude into isolation. And when I tell y'all, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen this far too many times from loved ones around me. And it hurts to see it. It genuinely hurts to see it because I am someone that is I pay attention to the value that people bring to spaces. And that's why I love having open, honest conversation about the deeper things, because to me, that gives me the opportunity to express the value that I see in other people to them. Sometimes they see it, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're actively pursuing it, sometimes they're not. However, for me, I've always loved those types of spaces because I find that that's the best space for me to pour into people. However, again, if I don't feel like I have that space to do it in the ways that I want to do it, that can be very discouraging. And I could fall into the doubt. However, something in me said, well, let's just figure this out. We're going to figure it out. And in December of 2018, I started putting together everything, and I officially introduced and launched what is now known as the Thoughts of an Empath podcast. But I'm going to be real with y'all. Is it okay if I'm real? Absolutely. Because that's what this conversation is all about. That's what this page is all about. That's what the work of the organization is all about. Being able to have those human level conversations where we can get real with one another, of course. So as I started working towards the podcast idea, I started getting, it's so interesting, and it's something that I wholeheartedly believe right now is as you start to make the steps towards the life that you want, life itself is going to shift around you to support you in the pursuit of that. I remember I went to a funeral. And at the funeral was a close family friend. We was chopping it up, me and my boys, my brother, we was chopping it up with the close family friend, and he had informed us that he had started a mentorship program at my old middle school because he was from the same community as me. And he was looking for volunteers. It just so happened that I had a whole bunch of time now because I done left my job. I decided to volunteer with that organization. One of the best decisions that I've ever made. And to this day, I say this over and over and over and over and over again in the spaces that whenever I get the opportunity to speak to people, volunteer work has been one of the most profound ways that I have now aligned with what I want to do in my life. So volunteer work, I will always encourage people to volunteer. I volunteered with the mentorship program, met some dope students, built some relationships, and it was just an overall beautiful experience just being in a space where I feel like I'm giving whatever value I can to this younger generation. But what it's also training me to do is learn how to authentically connect. Now, okay, I'm volunteering with the mentorship program. I'm getting the ideas for the podcast. This is way before I get the idea for a nonprofit organization. I went to school for marketing. I got my bachelor's degree in business marketing. So I'm like, okay, well, I do want to build something for myself, like business wise, because, we all need money. Money ain't the core, but we need money. Money is a very important and valuable resource. So I start getting the ideas of putting together, a marketing company, digital marketing company, because Instagram and social media and websites, if you got a business and you don't got a website, you're not doing business right. Real talk. So recognizing that I'm in a very unique space. I'm now have the time to invest into something that I believe is very important through the volunteer work that I'm doing. I now have the time to invest into the podcast, which is something of a passion project for me. And then I also have the time to invest into a business idea for myself. So I'm going through all of this. I'm going through all of these. And again, I don't come from an environment where I've seen many people put these things together or carry out these visions. And so there's a lot of hurdles, there's a lot of obstacles, there's a lot of things that I'm just learning on the go. My very first podcast episode that y'all can go on the page and y'all can see it right now was filmed using my phone and like a $20 microphone that I bought off of Amazon. So in that, I'm getting the training that, yeah, I might not have a blueprint for all of these things, but my spirit knows the way. And as long as I allow my spirit to lead me, I'm going to go through the training. I'm going to go through the work and the reconditioning, the unlearning to now relearn. All of that is part of the cocoon process. I'm going through an internal transformation that is now elevating me from who I was before. A version of myself that highly prioritize the views and the values of the people around me, to now a new version of myself that prioritizes the views and the values of what is in my heart and what is in my spirit. And I wouldn't change that experience for anything. Like, I have some new insight now. I've been through some things. It's almost, what is it, like 8 years now since 2018. We in 2026 right now. So there's a lot more that I've learned across the way. So if I had to go back and do it again with the knowledge I have now, of course I would do it a little bit differently just to help, smooth out the process. But I was thinking this to myself too. If I had to do it all again with what I knew at that time, I would do it all again. I do not wish for any other experience than the one that I have. I am so grateful for that. I am so grateful for that, because I've seen how I've transformed throughout that time. But that's only because I was intentional about making that space into a cocoon environment for myself. Using that period of isolation, of solitude, using that period of solitude to now align with what my heart and my spirit wanted me to go through, which was that transformation. In biblical text, it's the renewing of your mind. In other spiritual teachings, they could call this enlightenment, or just reaching a level where you no longer start to think the same. Because whenever you hear cocoon, you think of caterpillars. A caterpillar doesn't envision a life with wings because it doesn't have wings. So it's not thinking about reaching those mountaintops because it doesn't feel like it has the means to get there. But as it goes through that cocoon, as it goes through that transformation, and when it emerges from that cocoon, and now it realizes that it has wings, the way that it thinks is totally different. I don't have to crawl up the base of a tree trunk to get to the branch to now get to the leaf. I could fly up there. And that's what it felt like going through that cocoon transformation. However, again, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen many times that people transmute that solitude into isolation, and they rest in a cave. And in that space of being in the cave, you are denying access to yourself. You are not having conversations with yourself. You are not learning about yourself and what your spirit and what your heart wants to lead you towards. Instead, you are trapped in a space where you're constantly looking for the next distraction. And it's a very unfortunate space because no growth happens there. If any of y'all have heard of Plato's Allegory of the cave, if you spend too much time in the cave, even when someone outside the cave comes in and tries to bring you to help you see the sun and let you know that there is a life outside of the one that you've been experiencing for this time, you will deny them that opportunity. You will deny yourself that opportunity to be exposed to the whole new world because you just got so comfortable in the cave. And so I really, 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 especially now more than ever, want to encourage y'all, because I know this is a time where there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot going on outside. And so many of us might be having those conversations where it's like, yo, shoot, if the world is going to hell, what am I doing with my life? These are very critical questions that we need to be asking. But I want to encourage you to embrace the solitude. Embrace the solitude. Because that's what helps you. That's what allows you to transform it into a cocoon. And little by little, you are now being refined. You are now being changed. You are now being challenged in ways that you had never been challenged before. And as you step up to those challenges, as you allow yourself to rise up and meet those challenges and to overcome those obstacles, you become a version of yourself that thinks totally different. And right now, in this day and time, we need individuals that are willing to think beyond what they have before. I'm begging you, please, because it gets lonely. And I know those of us that have gone through this process feel that too, because by the grace of God, I've been able to find some people that I consider to be part of my tribe, and they express that same feeling. It's lonely. There's not a lot of people that you can have certain conversations with. There's not a lot of people that you can get to a level of depth with, because this world is so enticed and influenced by the surface level things. But again, I just want to encourage y'all to go through that process. It's uncomfortable, yes. And sometimes it can feel like, yo, how am I going to make it to next week? Because even the way that we start looking at money is a lot different. We don't want to work at the same places. Again, I was working as a personal banker at 23, 24 years old, making real good money for that time, for who I was at that time, and for my age rate, for my age bracket. I was doing very well. But even just my whole perspective around, is it worth it? That's a big question that I had to start asking myself. So I want to encourage y'all again to embrace the cocoon. But what does it look like to actually embrace the cocoon? I always want to provide some level of like practical, tangible value and things that you can actually do. I think first things first, develop a daily spiritual practice. If it's praying, if it's meditating, if it's fasting, whatever it is, whatever it looks like for you, develop that practice, please. This is something that allows you to now connect with your deeper spirit. If you don't have a daily spiritual practice, then you're going to get those same questions, but then you won't have the bandwidth you won't be in the heart space and the mind space to actually want to navigate those questions, and then you'll start looking for distractions. So developing a spiritual practice allows you to receive the question, to sit with the question, but not feel the pressure of, I need to answer the question. My spirit is going to bring that answer to me. God is going to allow me to recognize what the answer to that question is. So develop a spiritual practice. The second thing I wanted to say is ask yourself, what is your gift? What is your gift? But then deepen the question by saying, how can you serve with your gift? How can you serve through your gift? Each and every one of us has a gift. Each and every one of us has something unique and special to us. It's like our fingerprint. Ain't no two people, ain't no two fingers have the same fingerprint. So what is it that I can do really well, that I can serve in a very unique way? That is the next thing that I would ask you to do. And then the third thing is remove the limitations. That mental limit, like limits start in our mind first and foremost. And I understand that many of us grew up in environments where those limits were now instilled into us by the people around us and the communities that we were a part of. But start doing the work of unlearning those limits. You can do immense, amazing, powerful things. Jesus himself said, you can do far greater works than him. As long as you got that spirit. As long as you got that spirit. So you've got to believe it, or else that spirit will never, you will never allow that spirit to manifest into your life specifically. So start unlearning those limits. Those are just three things I just want to give to y'all. First, develop a practice. Again, it's okay if you bullshit the first couple months like me. But develop a practice. Please develop a practice. Discover what it is that your gift is and how you can uniquely serve through that gift. And then start to unlearn any limits in your mind. For me, if you do those three foundational things, then over time, you'll recognize that you are being poured into in ways that you could have never imagined, because that's what's been my blessing. That's what's been my portion. There are people that I've met along the way. There are situations that I've been involved in along the way that have now allowed me to become what it is that I am today. And don't let the Instagram subscriber number fool you, or the YouTube subscriber or my TikTok followers fool you. I know my worth. I know my worth. And in today's time, there are forces actively working, and they have a lot of resources and a lot of money. They are actively working to get you to forsake your worth. So I want to encourage you, please, learn who you are. Rediscover who you are. You are not lost. You are not broken. Nobody is unredeemable. If you so desire to become that higher version of yourself, you can achieve that. I know that for a fact. So I just want to be one to encourage y'all and to share with y'all that I believe in you. I have faith in you. And if you are now transitioning into a space of solitude, or if you've been getting that itch in your heart that I need to move away from certain situations and certain places, don't run away from it. Embrace it. Trust me, you will be blessed by that experience. It will be long, it will be difficult, it will be uncomfortable, but you have everything you need to navigate that process and to transform that solitude into the cocoon that will then allow you to become the butterfly that I know you are. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for rocking out with me on another episode of the Thoughts of an Empath podcast. If you found any value from this, please, again, I implore you, I encourage you to like, to subscribe, to share this with a loved one. But most importantly to me, I want you to comment. Comment your wisdom, share your process, share your experience. And if you want to tap in on a deeper level with myself and with the greater community, then head over to thoughtsofanempath.org. See when the next open lounge is going to happen, register, and make sure you pop out. Invite a friend, and tell that friend to invite a friend so that we can get in these spaces where we are building community around the conversations that are going to help support us through these positions, through these experiences. Because I didn't have many people around me to help me navigate that space. I didn't meet most of the people from that I consider family in my tribe now until after I had already gone through that transformation and already after I was through the cocoon. However, I recognize that this is something that can be so much more fulfilling when we have that community around us. So I put it upon myself to build that community. If you want to be a part of that community, again, head over to thoughtsofanempath.org, register, get the necessary information. If you want to volunteer with us to start, to have these human level conversations, if you want to bring human level conversations to one of your communities, connect with us, please. And if you want to be a part of the online community, you can find that link on the website as well. I love y'all so much. I appreciate you so much. And I pray you have an amazing day. Thank y'all. I love y'all.